Hey, what's up? It's Randy and welcome back to another video. Today I'm gonna show you exactly how much money I make as a freelance musician. So let's go ahead and jump straight into this. So I have this broken down into the different services that I rendered in this year. And now this, to be completely transparent, is actually 2019, pre-COVID. Things changed a lot during COVID and I actually switched into a different line of work. Still doing the musician thing, but also doing some other stuff. I'll get to that at the end of this video, but I wanted to break this down into the different categories of services that I've rendered and basically which accounts for the most amount of income. But let's go ahead and jump into the first service here. So this is my musician service. This covers things like gigs, different session work that I did, theater gigs. So you can see I've got this sorted by amount earned. Around $300 per day is probably the average. And then if I look at some of these larger numbers, you'll notice by the theater musician side of things, these are larger numbers, but these usually account for like a week of work. So the 1,800, that would have been a week, maybe 9 days, something like that. 3,500, that would have probably been a month. You'll notice with this cruise gig, it's like $8,000, but that's for 3 months of work. And the trade-off is that while you're working on a cruise, you don't really have any living expenses. Bit of a trade-off for sure. And then this 9,000 was from another theater gig that was like 4 long shows that I did in this year, basically. And the grand total for musician services for the year, $29,523. So that's sort of one facet of my income. So let's jump into the next category here, which is working as a technician. Now, a lot of you guys know that my background is in music and in audio. And so a lot of the local install companies that do like live event production and stuff like that, they will call you as like a seasonal employee or something like that. And so they'll call you to do this gig. It might be at like 5 in the morning or something stupid like that. Kind of nice to have a few of those just to sort of supplement the income throughout the year. The sound tech jobs, these are when I did live sound for an event. So this would have been at a theater doing live sound for a band or something like that. And then you can see there are some larger installs like this one here. I believe this was working, we did an install at like at this big, it's called the Great Wolf Lodge, and we installed some new lighting systems for them and stuff like that. So they actually put me up for the full week, and that was what I earned that week. Sound tech, this is doing live sound for a theater production. So again, that's a weekly rate. That would have been my take home at the end of the week. And total for the technician side of things was $7,930. Next up, we have video production. This is a pretty small amount. It's basically a few corporate video shoots that I did where a company had asked me to come in and like put together a little edit for them. This was when I was just getting started with video stuff, so it wasn't a huge part of my income, but that works out to $3,600 for the year. Not too bad, little side hustle. The next category here, panel construction. So I had a friend who asked me to build some acoustic panels for them just out of wood and rock wool and insulation, all that good stuff. $600 is what I charged for the services there. It's random, but I just thought I'd throw it in here. You'll notice a theme that there are a lot of oddball jobs that I do to sort of fill out the checkerboard of my calendar. And I'll actually show you my calendar view at the end of this so you can kind of see where that income comes in throughout the year. Next up, we have commissions. And commissions is kind of interesting because this was actually from one of these technician companies that I got them a gig, and the gig was like a, I don't know, $10,000 or $15,000 gig. It was pretty huge. And so they actually just paid me $1,200 as like a thanks for giving us the gig. And I actually worked on the gig as well, so I made a little bit of income actually doing the install as well, which was pretty sweet. It was nice that the company was able to pay out a little bit of commission for that. But that brings us to a grand total for the year of, drumroll please, $42,924.03. Now, that may sound like a little bit to you, that may sound like a lot to you. It really depends on where you live and what the expectation of income is in your area. To put that in perspective, I live about 2 hours outside of a major city. There are about 500,000 people in my city, and the minimum wage here is around $15. So if we want to see what that income looks like as a hourly rate, you can basically figure it out. I use this online calculator, punched in annual salary, and then that gives me my hourly rate if I was working 40 hours a week. Interestingly though, most of the time as a musician, I'm not working 40 hours a week. I'm working probably 30. Some weeks I'm working 65, 70. For theater gigs, especially long days. But the majority of the time, I'm not working nearly 40 hours a week. So it's probably more like $30 an hour, which is double minimum wage in my area. It's not bad. And for anyone who may be a visual learner out there, you can see I've got the totals broken down by services rendered and then into this bar graph down here. So you can see working as a musician is by far the largest piece of my income. Technician might be 1/5, 1/6 of my income. And then the other things just sort of fill out some time. So it's really not too significant. And the final way of visualizing this data that I want to share with you guys that I think is really important to understand as a freelance musician, and it's actually why I sort of changed my career path into what I currently do now, we'll get to that in just a second, is looking at this by a calendar view. This is the calendar. You'll notice any of these dark outlined ones, that's where I was booked for like a solid gig. This was working on the cruise ship. These are one-off gigs. This here is a theater gig where I was booked for, 2 to 3 weeks. And you'll notice I have these one-off gigs in here. I also had days where I would do like a theater show, and then in the evening I may go off and do like a bar gig at night or something like that. And this visualization doesn't really show that, but most Saturdays I was double booked probably. One thing you'll notice about this calendar view is I had 8 Saturdays free in the entire year. That's something to think about if you're a musician and you're thinking, hey, I really want to get into this. Like Friday, Saturdays, those are your busy days. Most Mondays I'm off throughout the year. Like look at this, Monday's off for like 10 weeks in a row, Sunday's off for about 8 weeks. And one thing that's kind of important to note about being a freelance musician is that, you may have a gig lined up. Like this is almost a month of gigs. It's 3.5 weeks of a theater show. But every day I'm still checking my email. I'm still hustling to, fill this time. Sometimes you just can't get things booked. There's just not enough time. The window just doesn't work out. Like this here, I'm off from a Monday to another Monday. I'm like two weeks and a day off without work. And that's not intentional. That's an accidental vacation that I didn't mean to take. Now, in some of these gaps here, I was actually fortunate enough I run a studio in town, and a lot of the time I'd be able to fill up those time slots. But that's really sort of the summary of this whole demonstration that I want to give you guys, is that as a freelance musician, you really have to be savvy in order to fill those time slots. And I mentioned earlier that freelance musician isn't my full-time gig, but it is my part-time gig. I still play tons of weddings per year, and we do the corporate events and that sort of thing. But right now I'm actually doing video production for a tech company as my 9 to 5. And what's been amazing is it's sort of freed me up financially to not have to stress every day of the week about where the next gig was going to come from. Instead, I can just play Friday, Saturday nights now, and I can do it and really enjoy making music again. I don't want to say I was like burnt out of being a musician, because I don't think that's accurate. I love playing and I love being a musician. I do miss it quite a lot, like playing 6-7 days a week. But I feel like the financial security that I got from my 9 to 5 has given me just a renewed passion for playing. So when I go out on a Friday, Saturday night, it's so fun. I just really can enjoy it a lot more. And it's been artistically very liberating for me. So I hope that that's insightful for you, and I hope that gives you some context as to why I made a switch. But this was basically the summary of how it looked for me, something that you could definitely do. I think the key takeaway in all of this is that you have to get a little bit savvy. And there are other avenues you can do. You can do live sound production. You can do installs with AV companies. You can do music lessons. You can make YouTube videos and show people online how to do things, create courses. There are any number of things that you can do to fill up this calendar so that it doesn't have these white holes everywhere. That's basically the goal. I hope that this was helpful for you. If it was, please feel free to go ahead and like the video. It helps me out so much. I can't even tell you. Hope this was helpful for you, and we'll see you guys next week.